What is the real cost of those everyday items? This week on the Extreme Personal Finance Show. Hey everyone, my name is Chris. Welcome to episode 44 of the Extreme Personal Finance Show. Welcome my friend Dan. Dan, how you doing, man?
Doing good, doing good. Need to go take a nap, but I'm doing good.
A little tired today. Um, you know what
Yeah,
I did
just
today?
staying up too late, getting up too early.
Yeah, you know what I did? I went out and got some vitamin D therapy because it was 52 degrees today.
Saw that. I
That
should have
was
done the same, but
it was pretty
spent
amazing.
spent too much time indoors. Weekend's supposed to be pretty good though.
Yeah, yeah, totally. Before we started recording, we're just talking about I was putting together a budget. I haven't really budgeted in a couple of years, probably. Like I track, but
Hmm.
I started budgeting hardcore back in 2016, but I really haven't budgeted lately. And so I was putting together a budget and I wanted to get accurate numbers on like, taxes, insurance, and all this stuff. And my homeowner's insurance has gone up 65% in 3 years.
Ouch.
And I just don't know, is that because of the costs from fires and hurricanes? I mean, obviously here we have tornadoes, and I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, you got to figure it's got to be part of that, right? I mean, we can't keep having the worst natural disasters in
Right?
whether it's decades or ever or
Dude, it's so
regardless,
crazy.
it's pretty significant. So
It's so crazy. Did you have a good weekend though? This past weekend? Did you have a good weekend?
I did. I did. So, local brewery to us, Liftbridge,
Oh yeah.
had they've got this stout that comes out every late winter
Okay.
called Silhouette. So they had their release party on Saturday. And it's one of those beers that I wish they had it year round because it's better than all of the rest of their stuff.
Really? Okay.
Well, so I'm biased because I like dark beers to begin with, and most of the rest of their stuff is light and summery and happy and whatever. I'm just like, give me the dark.
That's right.
So,
That's right. So I know nothing about beers. So do you like the Guinness then? Is that like
um, I do like Guinness.
okay. I just know that that's a
It's a
dark beer.
very
So
different flavor.
okay. Got it.
It's very
Um,
different.
so
It's mostly
Liftbridge,
the alcohol in it that does
okay,
it.
got it. So so Liftbridge, I know they have root beer on tap, which is cool.
Hmm.
So
Root beer, and then a couple other. A lot of companies are actually getting into this. A lot of different sodas and
hmm,
non-alcoholic options.
cool. Yeah, my daughter and I went to Monster Trucks this past weekend,
All
and that
right.
was that was fun. I've been going since, the kids were tiny toddlers,
Mhm.
Back here are the old Metrodome, right? And then a couple years off while they were building the US Bank Stadium, and now they're back. And they were there both days of the weekend, but it's always fun. I like it because of their short, quick races. And, I'm always rooting for construction and fires and flames and, you know, just that's always fun. Anyway, so back to
Oh,
the question at hand is, in personal finance, we're always kind of talking about ways to save money, right? But there will be times when we have to actually spend money, like things break, things wear out. Sometimes we just purchase something new, like well, for whatever reason. And we always talk about how much something costs. And I think we often will use price and cost kind of interchangeably, right? But it's interesting because I remember hearing this and it really kind of sparked something in my brain. Somebody said that the price is what we pay for a good or service, but the cost can be the actual or perceived value over time or of the lifetime of the product or service that we exchange for money. And that was a different thing. So it's like the price we pay or the actual or perceived value we get is the cost. Probably, I think one of the most common examples is buying a car, right? Because originally, like you can buy a car based on the price, but there is so many other things that you need to add to that. So you buy for this particular amount, you buy a car, like let's let you go buy a used car, but then now you have registration, insurance, any sort of repairs or ongoing maintenance that you may have. You
Mhm.
have the gas that you got to pay to get around, right? So depending on what the gas mileage is for that car, like all of these kind of factor into what the total cost of ownership is for that vehicle. So the cost is way more than just that initial price that you pay.
Sure. And I think going to your the definition you mentioned earlier with the costs, like the perceived value of it, right?
Hmm.
And that can be included in that too. So maybe some of the costs are higher, but you enjoy driving it. If you spend a lot of time in the car, um, say say you spend a lot of time in the car and the seat's very uncomfortable. So you're just miserable every second that you're driving the car.
Yeah.
So the cost might be a little bit lower, but you hate it like all the time. And that's going to have an impact on the perceived value as well.
Yeah, totally. And I think there's other things that someone may find value in something they pay for, right? It
Mhm.
could be time, it could be convenience. So you really can you put an actual dollar amount on that? Maybe not, but it's the perceived value you get. I think, it'll be fun just to kind of go through some of these things that we talk about. So I know one thing that came into play just a couple years ago, I bought a new central air conditioning unit for my house. It finally conked out after 22 years or whatever, and had to get a new one. And I'm shopping around different manufacturers, different models, different warranties. And the interesting thing, so I went with a little larger unit. The price of the unit was a little more expensive, but it was so much more energy efficient than other models that I could recoup the extra money in a shorter amount of time, right? So just like 3 more years of running it, 3 more seasons, I would
Mhm.
have made
Sure.
up whatever that difference is because it was that much more efficient than a different model, especially more efficient than the one I replaced. So that's another thing too, where it's like, well, the price of this unit versus, well, is it going to save you money over a long term? Like another great example is like washing machines, right? So you go buy a washing machine, let's say, it's a $400 washing machine, but they also have a $550 washing machine. Well, the one with the higher price, let's say, you look at Consumer Reports, it's got a much lower repair rate. It uses way less water, way less electricity. It's like a lot more efficient to run. And so therefore, yeah, you could buy a less expensive one and have it break down more often. So
Right.
I think that's another good example.
Yeah, and I think one thing to be cautious about though,
Hmm.
is the games we can play in our mind, right? It's like, well, the $400 one is this, and the $550 one is this. Well, what if I get the $600 one? What if I get the $650 one? And then we just keep creeping up a little bit more, a little bit more, a little bit more, to where kind of a ludicrous example, but let's say now we're comparing the $800 washing machine to the 850. We're like, oh, it's only $50. It's like, well, yeah, but you actually went from the $400 washing machine to the $850
Yeah,
washing machine. But
right.
since we do it incrementally, we're just looking at that last
Sure.
leap. So I do think you're 100% right as far as, trying to look at the total value and doing good research into it. But I do think it's also very normal because, I mean, to a certain extent, that's marketing, right? That's how they
Yeah.
do that, is to get you to then get that most expensive one. So still also taking a little bit of time to say, hey, what should I actually be looking at here? What is realistic for me? What should I be spending? And
Right.
just being cautious.
Well, like I think another one that we often talk about, I mean, everyone talks about it, is printers and printer ink. Like I have a Canon Pixma inkjet printer that I bet you it is 7 years old. So that printer was like $39, but I have spent thousands. I okay. I do print a lot, probably more than I should, but I print, I mean, for work and for business, I print
Mhm.
packing slips and all the stuff that I do
Okay.
for selling. But yeah, I mean, the amount of ink, I mean, I buy ink, it's like $38 for an ink cartridge. And so I bet you I've spent hundreds of dollars over the past 7 years. I mean, when the kids were home, they printed all the time.
Yeah.
So that's another big one.
Yeah, I do wonder though. I mean, I feel like I see plenty of things where there's like these memes about printers, and it's just like that you buy it for you have it for a month and then it can't connect anymore. So the simple fact that you said that you've had it for years,
Right.
I think that's money on ink well spent because the printer still works.
Yep. Yep.
Where there seems like there's so many printers where a year later it's just like I cannot connect.
Yeah. Well,
What
every
do you
year, I
mean?
mean, like I said, I'm running it like not on supported OS. So it's going to fail one of these times. So you brought up something that we before we were talking about is a lot of times it's like clothes, right? Like you
Mhm.
buy that cheaper shoes or cheaper clothes, but then now you
Right.
got to replace it more often, right?
Right. Yeah. Shoes are a big one, especially if you're fairly active, whether you get out and walk a lot or you're on your feet a lot for work or, you like to go run or whatnot. There are some running shoes which are just known for not lasting a long time. Or if they're a less expensive brand, then, they just won't last very long either. And so you're constantly replacing them. So that $30 pair of shoes might be a whole lot less than the $120 pair of shoes. But if you're replacing them every 2, 3, 4 months
Right.
rather than a year and a
Yep.
half, depending on how much you're actually using them,
Sure.
then it's at least a wash, if not actually costing you more. And side note to that too, thinking about unrelated costs, well, related but not direct, like not shoe costs. But if
Hmm.
you have a bad shoe and you're going out and running a lot,
Oh yeah.
which then causes injury,
Yep.
right? And now what kind of costs are you incurring on whatever kind of medical bills for
That is
a
okay.
torn this or a broken that or
100%.
right?
I kid you not. I'm going to share this story, man. You are absolutely right. So I had, so where I used to work, we would do these fitness challenges all the time. Like a few different times a year, they do, different types of fitness challenges. And we, assemble a team of like four people and then you would, get points or whatever. And so I was on this team and I'm like, okay, I'm going to walk every day. I'm going to close my rings on my Apple Watch, right? I'm going to do these things. And I'm out there walking and I started walking and I'm walking like every day. It's been like, a couple months, right? I'm walking because I finished the challenge, but I'm like, hey, you know what? I'm healthy. I'm going, but I'm walking in like in my Crocs, right? So it's like,
Okay. Yeah.
it's like, and I didn't realize, and I'm like, okay, you know what? I'm gonna take this a little more seriously. And I went and I bought, I think they were like $60 Nikes, which was the most I probably have ever paid on a pair of shoes, like sneakers, right?
Okay.
Dan, it changed the game. Like it was it was like night and day. I'm like, why was I walking in Crocs for 2 months? Anyway, that was that was my story. So
Yeah.
yes, I definitely know what you're talking about.
It's true. Yeah. A couple years ago, about 4 or 5 of us all signed up to do uh, the Medtronic marathon.
Hmm.
And I'm not gonna say it was just the shoes. Who knows? But I was the only one left standing by the end of it. Everyone else had some kind of injury to them. So yeah, it could be various things, but I don't know. I always made sure I had good shoes. So
Yeah, definitely. And I think one thing that we often kind of overlook too, and it's kind of top of mind, is because we started talking about differences between like renting and owning, and we've had a couple different conversations recently. And I think that's another thing too that sometimes is overlooked is the cost of a home. Because, we look at the sticker price of a home, right? Let's say you're going to buy a $300,000 house,
okay.
and that's like the cost you think of. But it's like once you have like all the, you're going to buy the home, you play closing costs, then you got to think about all the interest you're going to pay over the lifetime of the loan, taxes, insurance, utilities, maintenance, all the other things. It's a lot more than just a $300,000 purchase. So I think people often kind of forget that.
Sure. I think beyond that could even just be like the simple things of depending on what you're coming from before you buy the home. Are you coming from 800 square feet and now you
Oh,
have
sure.
1600 square feet? So you're buying an extra bed or a larger couch or a different dining room set. And then, one thing after another, and it can all add up really fast,
Totally.
you know?
But I think to your point, what you said before about the value you get, I guess imagine if you are a growing family and you need more space and you have people are on top of each other and you got kids sharing rooms, you're sharing a bathroom. Like, I mean, I get it. And so maybe you like having the space, right? And that has value to you. So,
Yeah. Or so a lot of times we talk about like apartments, you have the flexibility to move, right? It's
mhm.
not terribly hard compared to having to list a house and find a new house. Comparatively, it's a lot easier to move from one rental to
Yeah,
another. Um, but I think with a house, you also talk about like, values. It's like if you want to hang pictures or paint walls or change out the carpet because you want carpet or
yeah,
you don't have carpet and you want to add it or any number of things that you're like, I just want to do this because it's my house and this is the thing that I want. And it gives
yeah,
you that freedom of choice as opposed to just kind of being like locked into what you have.
sure,
So
sure.
having to take those values and just use that as a guiding principle.
Yeah, I saw that earlier today. I'm in this group on Facebook about it's not like home renovations or just like easy home upgrades or something like that. And somebody posted a picture of their living room and it was a nice looking place. And they were asking for what could easily be done to cover like the brick around their fireplace.
Mhm.
And I've seen some really nice people will like whitewash it or I mean paint like the brick and it'll look really nice. But they said, I need something that's renter friendly, so I can't paint the brick. And I was like, boom, there you go. So have to think of some creative facade to put over the brick. Yeah.
Or just deal with it.
Or just
I
deal with it.
think I think that would be my answer.
Dude, and I saw so in that group, I saw someone that I had no idea that they would take like the black backsplash in the kitchen. I
Mhm.
didn't know people were doing this. They would take the backsplash in the kitchen. They would take like the blue painter's tape. They would cover that whole area and then get peel and stick tiles and put their own backsplash up, right? Like so whatever color or style or whatever
Okay.
look they were going for. So they can decorate it the way they want. But then when it's time to move out, you can just pull that right off with the painter's tape. And I was like, that's a clever idea. I never thought about it.
Yeah. If that's if that's what's important to you, I
Yeah,
suppose. You
exactly,
know.
exactly. I was going to say, you mentioned too, again, some of those things, the perceived value. And one of the big things for me is like for instance, I pay for Clear at the airport.
Mhm.
For me, I definitely value the time and convenience. I can just like fly through security and most of the time,
Yeah.
there are mornings in Minneapolis where I'm like, damn it, they need more freaking Clear people. Come on, man. They need a couple more kiosks in there. Tell you what. Um,
Probably still faster than not having it though, yeah.
it depends,
Not all
man.
the time.
Yeah, it depends. So like, I
All
mean, there
right.
are times when I can just go through the pre-check line
Mhm.
because there's so many people. There's just not enough kiosks to keep up with the Clear people.
Okay.
Um, but anyway, I'm just saying, most of the time, like I really find value in that. Like, and I used it at a venue one time when I was out in San Francisco to go see a concert, and that was freaking badass. They had a separate line, big sign that said Clear, so you could pre-register for this concert, and you could go through, and there was like hardly any line. It was awesome, and I'm like, they should do that everywhere. Like, it was super cool. But there are tons of things that we could put value on that you really can't put a number on. Like one thing that comes to mind is like a security system, right? Yeah, you're going to pay for the system, you're going to install it. Maybe you have monthly, it's going to be monitored, right? That type of thing.
Mhm.
But can you put a price on the peace of mind, right? Like, I mean, it's something that if it helps you sleep at night, I think there's value there.
Yeah, I would agree. I think something like that especially comes up when, say, you've got kids, right, that are old enough to be left at home, but you still have either you work or
Hmm.
you're going out at night or whatever the case may be, or it's summertime and you're having to go to work, and they're old enough to be left at home, but they're still young enough that
Oh,
it,
they can
it
get
bothers you.
they can get into things.
Well, they can get into things, but also just thinking about people being able to get in the house and just having that layer of protection. It's like, hey,
Yep,
my kids are home and this makes me feel a little bit better.
totally. And I know people definitely talk about like gym memberships, right? And I think definitely it's one of those things where if you use it, I probably should look that up. I bet you there's what's the percentage of people that don't use their gym membership? I bet you it's pretty high.
Oh, I bet it is probably pretty high.
But again, if you use it and it makes you healthy, like I feel as though there's value there, right?
Definitely.
Um, I think one that we don't really think about vacations. Usually we think is that's just like a money suck, right?
Sure.
But especially after reading the book Die with Zero, it's kind of like, well, you are building memories with your family and friends, and like when you're on vacation, where you can kind of draw on those memories, and it's one of those things where you might find value in that later on.
Yeah, definitely. I do think it is important for anybody who's maybe starting off or early on in their personal finance life, if you will,
Mhm.
early college graduates or whatnot, really sitting down and thinking about what those values are, because we've gone on about maybe 10 or so minutes talking about, well, this thing is important if you value it, and this thing is value it, and this thing is value it. But you can't value everything, right?
Right.
Everything can't be a priority to where it's just like you spend, 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 spend with this idea
Sure.
that, oh, it's because I value it. It's like, okay. You still have to temper that kind of with the what do I value most? So
Right.
where do I want to put the time and the money that I have into those things? Because it's far too easy to and every company will help you spend all of your money by, by telling you
Right.
how the value of it is top notch, and it's just have to spend the time to sit down and really determine for yourself, not for the person selling it to you or the marketing or whatnot. What is it that you value, so
Right.
that you don't just fall down this rabbit hole of just trying to make yourself feel better. Was it retail therapy? It's like,
Yeah.
oh, I value this, I value this, I value this. And then next thing you know, you're in a place that you don't want to be.
Yeah. Exactly. I think that there are um I don't know if I should say this in a podcast, but I'll say it anyway. Like there's sometimes when I'm on the dating apps and when they say that their hobby is shopping, I was like, no, I think I'll probably swipe the other way. Because that shouldn't be a hobby, I don't think. That's just my opinion.
Yeah,
I don't know.
I don't get where you're coming from because I'm also a dude. I do think sometimes shopping doesn't mean buying,
You're
which
okay,
for
that's
you and me
fair.
it doesn't. For you and
That's
me it doesn't. It's like, no, I'm going shopping to get the thing, right?
that's
But
fair.
not
Yeah.
everybody views shopping that way.
I mean, I guess if we could just let's go look at these things and see what's out there, not that I have to spend money on it, then it's different. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Um, One thing too that I think you could really get value out of is like education, right? I mean, buying books,
Hmm.
learning stuff, taking those classes, those webinars, like even traveling to like a conference, right? That could have a significant cost, but I think if you are gaining knowledge and skills that can build over time, you can kind of put some value in that, and you can kind of. I guess I'm not like justify to yourself that yeah you should invest in yourself kind of thing, but I think there can be value there for sure.
100%. And I think it's just a matter of, doing the research and finding out what is the thing I'm going to, and why am I going to it. I think to a certain extent there are certain schools where you can get a lot of value out of just being at that school.
Hmm.
And having not gone to one of those, we'll use Stanford as an example.
I
I
was
didn't
just
go
I
to
was just going to bring
Stanford,
that up. Yeah.
so I don't know if that's true or not. But once you go down a couple tiers, right, at some point you get down to it doesn't really matter. Just go to the school,
Hmm.
make it inexpensive, and work hard from there, right? But still, I mean, do the research. What is it you want to study? What do you enjoy doing? Is it a program that you can get a job doing? And does that job work with what the tuition paid was? You know,
Hmm.
if you're going to pay 80 grand for a $20 an hour job, maybe not the best.
Right.
You can value that job or that experience a lot, but it's going to be really hard to make ends meet doing that. So,
Right. And I think there's also things too where, and I'm guilty of it. I've used, delivery services like DoorDash and stuff like that. Every now and then I'll use grocery delivery, which I don't do it anymore. Like I tried it. There's a deal with like Instacart where I had like $40 off if you spent 80 or something. So I tried it, but they got so much shit wrong. Like they would replace it with stuff that just wasn't even like you substituted this for that. Like it wasn't even like close. I don't know. But I
ask
think
for
some people
bananas
like
and I got cucumbers. It's like,
I know,
well,
right? But I think that there are like if you truly are like if you're busy and you're running kids places and it can save you time from going to the store, doing the shopping and getting stuff delivered or even like doing like curbside pickup stuff at like all the all the retailers will do it now, right? So you pick
mhm.
up your groceries at any of these grocery stores or Walmart or Target, they'll come out and deliver it to you. Man, I wish that was there when I had kids. Like, when we had toddlers, we had to like, especially when it was like negative 20 below zero, you still got to like go to the store, get them all bundled up, go inside, do the thing. Back when I was your age, we walked uphill both ways.
True, but I think that also you could just say that's the value of planning,
Yeah,
and what's the cost of not planning? So, you know,
that is
it's a
true.
it's a balancing act.
It is. But yet, and just like what we talked about before, like with like health and fitness, same thing with like, let's say you want to, pay for like a meditation app and you want to be able to, meditate every day and have it track your progress and you do it to, be more mindful and reduce stress. Again, if you find value in it and you use it, I think then yeah, it's a justifiable cost for sure. Maybe not.
No, I just think it still comes back to it's we can nickel and dime ourselves. So, okay,
We can. Oh,
this
absolutely.
this is 30-second soapbox thing.
Hmm.
If you've read The Latte Factor,
Hmm.
the thing that everyone gives it a lot of crap for is not what the book is about. And
Hmm.
it even says in the book, it's like, no, I'm not saying don't buy a coffee. I'm saying be cognizant of what you are spending on, even if it's a small expense, because they'll add up.
Hmm.
And I I think it's the third time I've said it just on this episode, but I think it's important. We can find value in a million things, but that doesn't mean we can afford a million things.
Right.
So we still need to be aware and make our goals and rank our goals and make sure we're on track for them rather than I just want people to be careful. Just
Yeah.
just be
No,
careful,
totally get it.
because
I mean, because
because
I
that's
could,
kind of what my story was before I started paying attention was I was just getting all the things and doing all the stuff and not making any progress until it was finally I had a light bulb moment of like, wait a minute, what's
mhm,
actually important to me?
right.
Because where I am right now, it doesn't feel very good. It doesn't feel like I'm making progress. I'm not doing all the things that I said I would do by age, whatever.
Hmm.
And had to step back and say, what is the thing that's important to me? Because I was making a lot of justifications for things
Right.
that I wanted in the moment. I mean, we could think about it that way. It's just like price versus cost. There's the price that you pay right now might
That's
be
a good one.
fine, but what's the long-term cost of that decision? It's
Or what?
keeping you from doing other things.
Yeah, that's one thing we didn't talk about, like the opportunity cost of what you did now, if that was
Absolutely.
invested. Yeah.
Whether it was an invested or just put in something else, or I think just about everybody would say they value the power of choice or the freedom of time or whatnot. And if we're not ever prioritizing the things that will allow us that, that's how we end up working at 70, 75, 80, and not because we love our jobs and we choose to, but because of we have to,
Right.
right? Um, So I think really making some time to look at those things and be like, okay, well, what do I want to be doing 25 years from now? And is this $200 thing hindering me from reaching that goal? And if it's not, then that's great. If you already like, nope, I need to save X number of dollars to get Y dollars in the future. Beyond that, I can spend it. Great. But I think not enough of us are doing that. We just want the thing that makes us happy in the moment without having that long-term vision at the same time.
Love it. Dude, that was brilliant. That was a great way to end the episode. And we want to hear from you if you have examples of kind of price versus overall cost or what you find value in, right? Things that you can't really put a price tag on, but you find value in, whether it saves you time, gives you peace of mind. We'd love to hear it. Make sure you drop us an email. Our email's in the show notes. We want to thank you for listening. Please like, subscribe, and follow wherever you get your podcasts. We really would appreciate it to like and subscribe on YouTube and leave a review on Apple Podcast. We really would appreciate it. And we'll see you next time on the Extreme Personal Finance Show. See ya!